All right, Buffs Nation, back again. Had a little bit of a break. Hold on, really quick. Be sure to hit that like on the way in, and of course, my channel is sponsored by my good friend Martez from Yo Martez. Use that promo code SCOBUFFS for 10% off. Links in the description. But man, some exciting stuff that I have tweeted about today, and you guys have probably seen this. Coach Prime, Deion Sanders himself, on the cover of Time Magazine, the feature article on Time Magazine. So I wanted to just take a few minutes to read through, probably a little bit longer than a few minutes, to read through this article with y'all. If you don't have time to go through and read, you can just listen to me narrate it, throughout your day. So be sure to hit that like. Let me know in the comments who's watching, where you're watching from. But man, this is awesome. Really excited to read this, and I got to go pick up a physical copy, in the store, man. That is for sure. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to take y'all through it. First off, the cover here, man, this looks awesome. What an awesome shot. Coach Prime looks fantastic right there. The Unwavering Confidence of Deion Sanders by Sean Gregory, Boulder, Colorado. On an autumn weekend in Boulder, the sports miracle of the season is clearer than the blue Rocky Mountain sky. Whereas for years, the University of Colorado football team delivered Saturday misery. The Buffaloes enjoyed just 4 winning seasons in the past 20 years and finished 1-11 in 2022. Boulder may now be the hippest, happiest place in America. The Stampede, a Friday night pregame pep rally down Pearl Street, used to feel more like a tiptoe. But on September 29th, the night before Colorado faced off against number 8 USC, the restaurants are full and the sidewalks are packed. A handful of little kids even line the rooftop of a trattoria to watch the marching band play. A little before 6 a.m. Mountain Time the next day, hundreds of University of Colorado fans, most wearing white cowboy hats adorned with LED lights, have assembled on Farron Field, smack in the middle of campus. Some are students, others alums and locals, while a significant number have traveled from far afield, never having imagined they'd have a reason to gaze at those picturesque peaks in the backdrop. Fox Sports' Big Noon Kickoff pregame show won't start for hours, but the revelers are ready. They're here to see Deion Sanders, or Coach Prime, a play on prime time, his nickname from his 1980s and 90s heyday, who arrived as head coach in December, radically made over this year's team and turned Colorado into the biggest story in sports. And then here you got the whole spread of the front cover shot. It says The Believer, how Deion Sanders is changing football forever. Before kickoff, the sidelines at Colorado Stadium are now the place to be seen. There's rapper DaBaby hyping up the crowd. There are Sanders' friends and fellow football Hall of Famers, Terrell Owens, Warren Sapp, and Michael Irvin. Hey, that's basketball Hall of Famer Kevin Garnett and future baseball Hall of Famer CC Sabathia and rapper Simba. The VIPs wear a special credential around their necks, Prime Passes, in the shape of the gold whistle Sanders uses in practice. Boulder County is 1.3% black, yet as one sideline spectator observes, the scene feels like Black Hollywood. That's what's been happening on the field. And what's been happening on the field is as spectacular as what's happening off. As the Buffaloes charged back against the Trojans, slicing a 41-14 third quarter deficit to 48-41 with just under 2 minutes left, Folsom Field, filled with more than 45,000 roaring fans, or 54,000 roaring fans, felt like the epicenter of sports. Could Sanders' squad, who had already exceeded expectations, stimulated the college football economy and compelled more than 8 million people to watch Colorado beat Colorado State in double overtime after 2:15 a.m. Eastern Time in mid-September, ESPN's highest college football viewership at that hour, pull off this monumental comeback? That was quite a run-on sentence. USC recovered the late onside kick to clinch the game, but Colorado's charge just added to Coach Prime euphoria. The atmosphere is electric, man, DeBaby tells me before leaving the field. Look, F the NFL game. Right now, this is the most exciting place in football, and he is not wrong. Now, Swifties may disagree. While the rumored relationship between Taylor Swift and Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce drives headlines and ticket sales, Coach Prime's efforts are much more far-reaching. At Colorado, he has the power to change not only the fate of the team, but also the multi-billion-dollar college football industry. His success could open doors for more black head coaches at the highest levels of the college game, a long overdue development, especially given that teams with majority black players help generate, in some cases, north of $100 million in annual revenue for their schools. After decades of coaches protecting players from distractions, Sanders has invited cameras to embed with Colorado for the second season of Amazon's Coach Prime. I can't wait till that comes out, by the way. His embrace of social media exposure for players, they wear their Instagram handles on their practice jerseys, and their recently won right to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness should shake up sports' stodgy DNA. Plus, after 2 successful seasons at Jackson State, a historically black college or university, Sanders used the transfer portal, the still newish NCAA mechanism that lets players switch schools without sitting out a year, to overhaul Colorado's roster. He brought in 57 transfers, while more than 60 Colorado players left for other programs or ended their college football careers. Man, and here's this iconic shot. Is this draft day? Yep. Draft day, April 1989. In short, he treats college sports as what it is, a business. CU hired him to win and win now. And he's doing it his way, with straight talk and unshakable confidence. In the world of college football, there is a certain expectation of how coaches should be and how they should act, says Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, former defensive lineman at the University of Miami, who won a national championship in 1991. Prime tore that playbook up and threw it out the window. Some of Sanders' methods have proved unpopular. He was criticized for having DeBaby, who has been decried of using homophobic language and has had multiple run-ins with the law, give his team a pep talk about overcoming adversity. Who cares? Yeah, he's pushed players out the door. No, he hasn't. Many people are rooting for his failure, but that word, Sanders insists, isn't part of his vocabulary. Coach Prime, a ubiquitous presence in ads for Aflac, California Almonds, and KFC. Love Coach Prime or hate him, you're paying attention. We're being unapologetically who we are. Sanders, 56, tells me in an interview in Boulder the week of the USC game. You can tell by everything that we're accomplishing right now that we're headed in the proper direction at a speed that is undeniably a lot more expeditious than many people would have suspected. Shoot, this is going to be good. It's just like the trailer of a movie you're seeing. Just wait until you see the whole darn movie. Sanders patrols his team morning practice on a golf cart with Prime and emblazoned on the front. A Prime bicycle and a Prime Segway rest outside his office. Before one session, the team huddles around him. Line, you're going to have a great day. You're going to kick some butt up front, right? Sanders says, yes, sir. Players respond in unison. You're going to protect that quarterback, right? Yes, sir. Defensive line, you're going to get to the quarterback, right? Yes, sir. He drives from station to station to observe and occasionally weigh in. Sanders moves more gingerly these days due to blood clots. He had two toes amputated on his left foot um, in 2021. Get off the field, garbage. That's horrible, he says to one player who aired. You ran onto the field as if you were about to have a baby in 3 months. He tells a player who wasn't hustling enough for Coach Prime's liking. Hey guys, that was horrible offensively today. I want y'all to know that. Sanders says at the end of a practice that there's not a commitment to excellence whatsoever. You're just going through the darn motions. Sanders eschews profanity, often saying "darn" where a curse word would do, but he reserves his biggest smile of the week for when two of his coaches, defensive coordinator Charles Kelly and defensive tackles coach Sal Sunseri, both of whom left Alabama, the premier program of the last 15 years, to take on his rebuilding project, get into a shouting match that devolves into an exchange of FUs. He appreciates their intensity. At one practice, David Kelly, Colorado's general manager and longtime Sanders confidant, shows me a text he got from Nike co-founder Phil Knight, who had talked to Sanders before Colorado faced Oregon in Eugene September 23rd, met with Barack Obama at Nike headquarters a few days later. I greeted him with, "You're the second biggest celebrity I've talked to this week," Knight wrote. Oh, that's awesome. Nice shot here. Little about Sanders' program is typical. Is you working or twerking? Reads a sign on Sanders' office door. Working or twerking is one of multiple phrases, including Coach Prime and "it's personal," for which he has filed for trademarks. A conference room houses his sneakers and hats. On Friday afternoon, a woman walks to his door and asks, "Are that many people really in here?" Sanders doesn't allow shoes in his office, and 11 pairs of shoes sit out the front of his reception desk. A few minutes later, members of the documentary crew, his manager, Sanders' son Shiloh, and Colorado safety, Garnett, a fellow basketball Hall of Famer, and Paul Pierce fill out Sanders' space. These days, everyone wants time with Prime. Colorado's game against Oregon, a 42-6 blowout victory for the Ducks, drew 10 million viewers while making it one of the most watched college football games of the year. The school's online team store merchandise sales are up 892% year to date over 2022. Colorado's chancellor, Philip DeStefano, says out-of-state applications have climbed 40%. Goodness me. It's transformational, he says. Sanders is even developing a half-hour comedy with Kevin Hart's media company based on his journey and billed as Entourage Meets the Gridiron. Sanders' team tells Time exclusively. That's pretty cool. People are drawn to hope, man, says Sanders. Shoot, we're David. We ain't got but a couple of stones here. We're playing against Goliath every week. We were 1-11, and now you're tripping about us. We're pulling people in, man. That just want a chance to be seen, to be heard, to be noticed, to be recognized. They just want to be pushed in the swing set of life every once in a while and say, "We." Hopefully I said that right. One could dismiss these words as self-serving if Sanders weren't onto something, because it's not just celebrities who have flocked to town to play homage to Sanders. The Rock, Lil Wayne, Offset, and Key Glock have also made appearances since the start of the season. Fan after fan in Boulder mentions Coach Prime's inspiration. At the Colorado team store, Veronica Jones, a retired law enforcement officer from Charlotte, North Carolina, wearing a gold-rimmed, fierce but fabulous glasses and a T-shirt for the HBCU Johnson C. Smith University, fished for Prime gear in the same area as a guy who looked like a member of ZZ Top. Her husband, Will Jones, noted that most of the black passengers on their flight to Denver were going to cheer on Sanders. That's really cool. It was like a family reunion, he says. Kedrick Mallory made the trip from Atlanta with friends and family, including his 1-year-old son. I'm here to support the movement, says Mallory, a real estate broker. In my 42 years of living, I never thought of coming to Colorado. My son could have stayed at home with his grandmother, but I wanted him to be able to say, when I was 16 months old, I witnessed the prime effect. When Sanders was rocking Jerry curls and gold chains in the 1980s, Neon Deion was another nickname back then. Few would have pegged him for a major college football coach, provider of hope, and leader of men. His talent was indisputable, but his swagger rubbed many the wrong way. Everybody occupies two persons in their natural being, says Sanders. People wish they could develop that other person a lot more. That other person says the things they want to say and does the things they want to do. Prime has been that cat. I developed that cat a long time ago. Gotta love it. There's Sanders with the Jim Thorpe Award. Sanders grew up in Fort Myers, Florida, where his mother worked around the clock to support him. A two-time All-American at Florida State, Sanders won the Jim Thorpe Award, given to the top defensive back in the country in 1988. Both the Atlanta Falcons and the New York Yankees drafted him. During a 1990 Yankees-Chicago White Sox game in the Bronx, Sanders got into a verbal exchange with White Sox catcher Carlton Fisk, who took exception to Sanders failing to run out a pop out. Contemporaneous news reports said Sanders drew dollar signs in the batter's box shirt. Fisk seconded that account over the years. The exchange contributed to Sanders' image as an arrogant heel. Just a hater. But Sanders insists he drew no dollar signs, only marking to help position his feet. Carlton Fisk lied. He said, "Sir, with all due respect, I would never do such a thing." Why would I lie about something like that? Fisk says. Check out the tape. Whatever. Regardless, Sanders rocketed to 1990 stardom. He had made a cameo in MC Hammer's Too Legit to Quit video. He won back-to-back Super Bowls after the 94 and 95 seasons with the San Francisco 49ers and Dallas Cowboys, respectively. Years before Colorado, Sanders was creating culture. Dwayne Johnson was watching closely over the years. Over Zoom, I asked him about Sanders' influence on his own career, and he shows me goosebumps on his forearm. No one has ever asked me that, he says. So much of the character and entity of The Rock came from Prime. One of the characteristics of the character of The Rock was talking in third person. Deion would say certain things in the third person. I always found that so effing cool because he walked the walk. After his NFL career ended in 2005, Sanders became a TV analyst and began coaching on the youth and high school levels when two of his children, who now play for Colorado, Shiloh, 23, Shador, 21, were kids. In 2019, Sanders told his manager and business partner, Constance Schwartz Marini, he might reach out to his alma mater about helping with recruiting. I said, why don't you just make me a head coach instead? Says Schwartz Maroney, CEO of SMAC Entertainment. I'm not stupid. I understand there's a huge difference between coaching youth in high school and jumping into the collegiate level. But while the real estate may change, his methods have not. He interviewed at Florida State and Arkansas, but without any college experience, he wouldn't get those jobs. Jackson State, which plays a level below major programs like Colorado in the football championship subdivision, took a chance on him. Star power allowed Sanders to skip the typical assistance routine. It didn't matter. He finished 27-6, winning a pair of SWAC championships. I hate when people say dumb shit like he didn't pay his dues, says former quarterback Cowboys teammate Michael Irvin. Okay, how many of you head coaches in college right now started at the Little League level? Fair point. If I'm going to be a great CEO one day, I want to start in the damn mailroom so I can learn every piece of the job along the way. Another great iconic shot. Sanders caught the attention of big schools. As Colorado struggled last season, its athletic director, Rick George, started texting him pictures of Folsom Field's Mountain View. When he met with Sanders in mid November at Sanders' home in Canton, Mississippi, Sanders surprised him with a written assessment of every Colorado player. Sanders took the job without visiting Boulder. You chose this naked and not ashamed, he says. He took heat on the way out of Jackson. Sanders had helped draw much needed attention and resources to an HBCU, so his exit for some felt like a betrayal. A commenter said on CNN that he sold a dream and then walked out on the dream. To Sanders, however, his work in Jackson was done. It wasn't like we just abandoned it, he said. What more can I do? During his first meeting with Colorado's holdover players in December, Sanders, who signed a 5-year deal worth 29.5 million, was brutally honest with his intentions. Those of you that we don't run off, we're going to try and make you quit, he said in a speech broadcast on social media. And then, we've seen these graphics about the transfer portal. Sanders acknowledges that come season end, some of his players will surely hit the transfer portal with opportunities to earn playing time and cash elsewhere. Churn is now part of college football. While players don't get paid by their universities, as of July 21, NCAA athletes can earn income through third-party sponsors and boosters. Shador, for example, has deals with Gatorade, Beats by Dre, and Tops, among others. According to On3.com, he has a $4.8 million NIL evaluation, second to only Bronny James, LeBron's son. Colorado two-way player Travis Hunter also ranks in the top 10. They want to be treated like pros, but you got to understand, there's scrutiny like pros, Sanders says. There's cuts. There's dissatisfaction. You can't have a pity party and want it both ways. Well, I'm still a kid. He says that in a baby voice. No, you got a Benz parked outside. After Oregon humbled Colorado, many celebrated Coach Prime's comeuppance, which felt a bit odd given how recently the Buffs were 1-11. Don't Americans root for the underdogs? I asked Sanders to explain this one afternoon as we sit in the Colorado Recruiting Lounge, a spacious area overlooking the football field designed to impress prospects. His Belgian, man, I can't even say this. His Belgian Molloy's Gunner watches, I don't know, watches, his dog watches from the cage by the window, marking his first time a college coach's dog has listened in on one of my interviews. You know why, Sanders says. Everybody knows why. Nobody will say it. And man, that's right, man. A lot of people don't want to see a black man have success like Coach Prime. We put the cards on the table. Does he sense a resistance to a black head coach who's known to break protocol? Absolutely. If you're somebody who has on a shirt that has wrinkles on it, I'm going to say, "Hey, man, is your iron okay, Sanders?" I'm not going to pretend it's not there. I'm too old to play games. I'm not one to sit up here and wave the racial flag because I've been given some tremendous opportunities. But the stats, just 10% of top Division I head coaches are black, make it hard to argue that racism doesn't persist in the sport. We can play, but can we coach? Says Sanders. 70% of us can be in the locker room, but we can't lead ourselves. It don't add up. Sanders vows to fix this discrepancy. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes, there's a time and a season for every activity under the sun, he says. I believe it's time that we make those strides. Opponents are taking shots at Sanders too. He didn't appreciate the comments from Colorado State coach Jay Norvell, who before the CSU game said, "When I talk to grown-ups, I take off my hat and I take my hat and my glasses off," a reference to Coach Prime's sartorial choices. Oregon coach Dan Lanning told his team in the pregame locker room that they're fighting for clicks, we're fighting for wins. You got to understand where that comes from, says Sanders. That comes from something that's deep down inside of him. That pressure of that moment forced it out. He couldn't hide. Successful people and confident people don't do that. Sanders note he hasn't initiated spats with other coaches, which is true. Putting you down doesn't lift me up, he says. We're not on the seesaw, or we're not on the seesaw of life. Another awesome shot. I mentioned that Shiloh was caught on film cursing at Ducks players before the game. Shiloh, Shiloh, Sanders says. Shiloh's been like that since he was a kid. Shiloh doesn't really start it. He finishes it. I'm pretty sure he was provoked in some kind of way. For his part, Shiloh insists he trash talks his own teammates, including his brother. They've provoked me by just being there, he says of Oregon. They just look at you and you just want to slap them. An Oregon spokesman declined to comment. Of course they did. The comeback against, let's see, USC offered a glimpse of the Buffs' potential. If Colorado plays as strong as it did against a top 10 team for a full game, instead of just a half, it could contend in 1 year of the Coach Prime era. After the game, players bowed their heads as Sanders' friend led the team in prayer. Lord, this is a day of resurrection. Thank you that you got the bitter taste of last week out of our mouths. Sanders told his team he loved everyone in the room, players, coaches, all of them. In a quiet moment after the uplifting loss, I asked Sanders what America could learn from it. Everything about us is designed and built to go forward, he says. I've never been a rock, an idle person. I've always been a mover and a shaker, a wave maker and a go-getter. He shares one more message before heading back to the recruiting lounge. We come, Sanders says. You've got to be crazy if you can't see that. We coming. Well, that was a wonderful article. Thank you guys for listening. Hopefully you guys found this to be helpful because it was a long read. It took almost 30 minutes. Pretty good article. I wish that they had spent some more time on the upset over TCU. That was such a big deal. But nonetheless, an awesome article. I'm going to have to go see it or go buy it. That's for sure. So, anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. Y'all be nice to each other in the comments. It's Friday, for goodness sake. Hope everybody is doing well. And man, I appreciate you guys so much. I gotta hop to a meeting. I'll be back later today. I think I'm gonna do some film review. I'm taking a look at Arizona State. So I gotta take some time to watch before I get back on here. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, where you're watching from, if you're gonna go get a Time magazine or if you've gotten one yet. But man, this is so cool. I'm gonna have to put it next to my Slam magazine that I got for the Nuggets winning the championship. So building a cool little collection here. So anyways, hope you guys are having a great day. I will see you all later. And as always, Sco Buffs.